Well, hello, everyone. James Daly here with TruthBeKnown. Welcome back as we continue episode 4 with chapter 2 entitled Breaking Rank, Divide and Conquer. I first want to address the name of Radiance Legal Counsel as there was a shakeup with the original firm, and I want to make sure that we're keeping the entities straight for everyone as this will soon begin to escalate. We had and still have AKA the church lawyers. But now, since they had a falling out amongst themselves, we also have AKA my church law firm. Stephen Goodspeed, who had originally sent me the letter from hell, was at the time working for Middlebrook MG Law Team, being AKA the church lawyers. Both of these law firms are located in Grapevine, Texas, along with Jimmy Evans and Tom Lane, who they also do work for. And no surprise there. When we saw that Radiant had engaged a legal firm from Texas, it wasn't hard to put two and two together with Jimmy Evans and Tom Lane, but it was good to confirm this with Stephen Goodspeed. On February 6th of 2023, I received an email from David Middlebrook of MG Law. Now again, this is the church lawyers. That I found quite comical and that I want to read to you. Now I want to remind you that I'm certainly not a client of the firm. I was sent a letter from hell from this firm, yet they are so unorganized, they send me this email correspondence in reference to the shakeup in their firm, as if I'm a client. Let's read. Some of you received notification that on Wednesday of last week, 3 attorneys left our firm without notice. Well, comically, I want to insert that these 3 attorneys that left are the 3 attorneys that are now representing Radiant Church, AKA my church lawyers. I want to show you images of these individuals, introduce you to Dustin Gaines, Stephen Goodspeed, and Mark Juba. I think it's important to put a face with a name when we are discussing these men and to keep clarity of which law firm is which. He further states in his email communication that he did not intend to originally send out any mass communication to their clients regarding their exit, as it was a change of personnel and ultimately a reassignment of work. I know all of you have experienced something similar at some point in your ministry. However, and this is where it gets a little interesting, our clients have provided communications sent to them by the departing attorneys suggesting something improper occurred, triggering their departure. He then further states, I assure you that that is not the case. There have been no moral failures, illegal activities, meltdowns, or any other HR issue that may come to mind, which is David Middlebrook's wife, Christina Middlebrook. Anyways, I don't know all these characters, but this whole situation reminds me of the statement that I heard years ago from one of my mentors. He who will attack for you will eventually turn and attack you. So, well, there must be something in that communication that was sent out by the 3 attorneys that defected to require such a revealing mass communication to not even past clients, but also non-clients like me. In addition, Radiant changed to use the new law firm, AKA my church law firm, and these are all the all-stars that are now representing Radiant against me. And any church member asking questions, by the way, about transparency or wanting to see the bylaws are probably going to get introduced to these men. Last, in the letter from hell, Radiance Legal Counsel, Stephen Goodspeed, communicated that I could no longer contact the church in any format or medium, but stated that I could contact him. And so that's just what I did. Would you like to know how the phone call went? I think you're going to be very intrigued as to how my discussion with Radiant's attorney, Stephen Goodspeed, who had sent a letter from my church law firm, but now has his own firm, my church lawyers. But first, I want to cover a few things. Proverbs 15:22. Plans fail for lack of counsel, but with many advisors they succeed. Please note, as I say, as a comical statement, the fine print at the bottom of your Bible, that this verse is predicated upon the assumption that those providing counsel are wise and grounded in the Lord, with God's word buried in their hearts. Be aware that the counsel that you will receive will be based upon the heart of the man that you are receiving the counsel from. If he's wise, well, of course, you'll receive wise counsel, and your plans will succeed. But if he's a fool, he may still appear to be wise, And if he's a fool, your plans may appear to be succeeding at first. But if the counsel was foolish, then the tide always turns, and it will turn outside of your control, and your plans will, of course, fail. 1 Corinthians 15:33. Do not be misled. Bad company corrupts good character. So we must always be cautious of the people we associate with because they can either make or break us, right? And I don't care if they're sitting in the pew next to you at church on Sunday or not. People who think incorrectly always act incorrectly. Now, the moment many of you have been waiting for. When I communicated in an earlier episode that I knew more about this letter from hell than they thought that I know, well, that is because I did. That is because I had a personal one-on-one conversation with the attorney who issued this letter from hell to me, Stephen Goodspeed, who is now, again, a partner, AKA my church law firm, who told me in the letter that I couldn't call the church anymore and that I needed to call him. Now, I don't remember all the details, exact details of the call, to this lengthy phone call, as I was in my car traveling, but to the best of my ability and my memory, I'm going to inform you of several alarming facts that Stephen Goodspeed, Radiance Counsel, informed me of during this call. Number one, he informed me that the tone of such letters usually comes primarily from his clients. Now that surprised me, as I had hoped early on that someone would be the adult in the room at Radiant Church and would find this inappropriate letter and ask for them to walk it back. Well, now we know why that didn't happen. Because the church was behind the tone of his letter. Number two, he informed me that there were a lot of cooks in the kitchen in writing this letter. There were a lot of cooks in the kitchen in writing this letter. So let's put this into perspective. Pastor Lee and his leadership are to be above reproach as shepherds, but instead they are all chiming in as cooks to cook up a written communication that we have all affectionately labeled the letter from hell? What? Number three, he stated that there are very few letters that have been issued like this from his office. They are rare. Well, remember in an earlier episode that the ECFA gave them second place as to the worst letter they had ever read. Number four, he apologized for the letter. That's right. He apologized. Number five, he ended up repenting for writing me that letter, and we prayed together. That's correct. Number six, I gave him an opportunity to walk the letter back, and I asked him to never issue such a letter to anyone like that again. Now, I'm going to be following up with Stephen, and I'll be in touch with him soon, and we'll update you on that communication. Number seven, lastly, Stephen Goodspeed inquired if I was still open to reconciliation, of which I responded, of course I would be. He stated that he was going to be reaching out to the church on my behalf and inquiring about reconciliation. He actually texted me and stated that he contacted Radiant Church to see if they would be open to reconciliation. Now, this text communication will be loaded onto our website. Unfortunately, but not surprising, Radiant leadership did not respond. Now imagine a church leadership that does not look favorably to such an idea of reconciliation. Now this goes back once again to a reprobate mind. There is always an inherent problem for those having a large group of individuals involved in a scheme, and that is keeping everyone walking the line and not breaking rank. It's virtually impossible. And while Stephen Goodspeed may have fallen backwards in his rank with Radiant Church, it appears that Dr. Michael Brown is falling forward by leaning way out over his skis on his podcast, The Line of Fire, proclaiming Radiant as the most transparent church in America. Well, we're looking forward to doing some more research and an episode on that for you. After my name was mentioned, Dr. Michael Brown then went on to attack my character and slander me to thousands of his listeners, claiming to have a report and stacks of information. Dr. Michael Brown, I want to address you personally, as well as request you to preserve all of your stacks of documentation, reports, as well as all emails, all text messages, etc. I would begin to get it all organized for your defense. I hope you can support those claims. That's a tall order. And it appears to me, metaphorically speaking, that you may have put yourself in the line of fire on this one, thus fulfilling the name of your podcast, thus making you also a prophet, Dr. Brown. These ungodly and foolish actions of Dr. Michael Brown further undermine Radiant's indefensible position and attacks on my character. It always seems like a good idea to those lacking character at the time to perform such attacks. But these types of schemes always come apart over time. And eventually, everyone must ultimately decide if it's going to be self-preservation or if they're willing to lose everything that they have worked so hard for, such as their reputation in ministry, as the matter escalates to the public and the truth is finally revealed. Numbers 32:23. You will be sinning against the Lord, and you may be sure that your sin will find you out. So as I mentioned earlier, just when we think things can't get any worse, they do. And Rick Burmeister does the unthinkable. While Radiant's attorney is apologizing, repenting, and praying with me, and contacting Radiant Church for reconciliation, Rick Burmeister, Radiant's executive pastor, elder, and treasurer, continues in his unethical, immoral, and ungodly behavior in his attempt to silence TBK and to suppress the information in the accounting review letter. That's correct. As mentioned earlier, instead of answering the questions raised by the third-party accounting firm, Rick Burmeister calls the accountant employee and said Radiant would need to take action. And our accountant employee who was performed the financial review was quite upset by the phone call from Rick Burmeister. The call made her so uncomfortable that she immediately requested a conference call with her management and our team and actually requested that we take the letter down. Not because of the work that she performed, but because of how Rick Burmeister made her feel. Of course the call made her feel uncomfortable. Calling an employee of a firm and informing her personally that they would have to take action would make any reasonable person uncomfortable. I do want to give Rick Burmeister, Radiant's executive pastor, some credit. I really do. Outside of being totally ungodly, his attempt to silence our accounting firm staff was somewhat successful in at least intimidating them to settle for her name being redacted from the letter. His phone call did initially create quite a stir and created some significant strain on our business relationship. But fortunately, once everyone calmed down, the attempt to silence was overcome with good business acumen. Our long history relationship of working with this firm, and the fact that we can't bow to a culture that attempts to silence us the way that Rick did by bullying and intimidating. It is unacceptable. The accounting firm will continue to stand behind their work in telling the review analysis of Radiant's financials and the substantial list of questions that they have raised. After Rick Burmeister's phone call was found to be ineffective at fully silencing us, he released the dogs again by contacting his legal firm and having them issue a letter also demanding them to have the financial review letter taken down. That's right. Radiant Church had my church law firm write a letter to our accounting firm requesting that the accounting review letter be taken down of YouTube. So last time, it was Stephen Goodspeed who issued the letter from hell. But this time, we have a new cast member from my church law firm, Dustin Gaines. Now, Dustin has a history. He was a pastor, and more on Dustin Gaines later. But I want to show you his picture now so you can reference who we're speaking of at my church law firm. Now, rather than inquiring for clarifications to the accounting review or offering additional information to answer the serious questions, my church law firm goes on the attack again. Here again, they're the aggressor. But this communication gets even more interesting for several reasons. First, they state the intended use of the correspondence was limited to TBK and the individuals involved in this matter. Well, let's define individuals involved in this matter are millions of Christians, in which not just millions, but billions of dollars are given unto the Lord Jesus Christ and is apparently being wasted by man. Think about that. We have $4 million at Radiant Church in 2020 that was cleared, and we don't know where it went. But we have billions around the globe that's potentially being wasted in like-kind manners. Could you imagine what could and will be accomplished when we, the remnant, we who actually care, we who aren't just going to church for a country club experience anymore on Sunday, can take back control of God's purse and ensure these funds are hitting the streets for the Great Commission and not being consumed by man? They then state the video shows James Daly from TBK going into detail about alleged financial improprieties to the church, largely based on the confidential preliminary findings. The accounting review was conducted on audited financials created by their accounting firm, Kapp & Krause, in conjunction with Radiant Church's own year-end financial reports. TBK nor myself had made any allegations other than the fact that they're failing to be transparent, and that remains true to this day. It is unfortunate that Radiant's financials that were obtained only through placing consistent pressure upon the ECFA by TruthBeKnown. It's unfortunate that they did not simply answer questions. But in contrast, they created more questions. Actually, several pages of questions from a professional accounting firm. Important questions that need to simply be answered rather than attempted to be deflected or attempts to attack those asking the questions as though we've done something wrong. The letter goes on to then state Mr. Daly is erroneously treating the accounting firm's information as if it is a definitive indictment against Radiant's financial practices. Now, again, Dustin is making a play of strong words here. And it's really amateur hour because you don't make such statements like that, regardless of what side you're on. And more on this in the cost of war. Let's first go ahead and define indictment. It's a formal charge or accusation of a crime, serious crime, a thing that serves to illustrate that a system or situation is bad and deserves to be condemned. Now, the only thing that's going to make something definitive is what? The truth. That being the full transparency of the financials and the church's bylaws. Whether Radiant furnishes these documents willfully or kicking and screaming through a court order, make no mistake, we will obtain these documents, just like we obtain the audited financials, so we can vet the information and seek the answers to our questions that we should be provided. The engaging of a professional accounting firm to do the review of my church financial statements and then providing that documentation to the church is not a definitive indictment, and it's surely not an erroneous information. It falsely makes me sound like the bad guy. And that is exactly what's intended with this communication. But of course, there is no substantiation to their frivolous claims. How about this? How about they stop being the aggressor and attacking me and TBK and start to simply provide the transparency with the financials and the 2016 bylaws, including all the salaries, credit card statements, etc., for all the church's financial operations to we, the donors, to review. How about that? Mr. Gaines then allows his wheels to come off when he states that they feel that Mr. Daly and TruthBeKnown have altered the accounting documents to suit their purposes further. Dustin, I'm looking forward to you validating this statement. I want to give you the floor to provide any proof of such baseless claims that does nothing but further attacks my character as well as TruthBeKnown. While we have always wanted Radiant to do the right thing, it's almost apparent by your posturing statements of pending litigation and the behavior of your client that this is only going to end up in litigation, Dustin. Most likely that of a full jury trial, where any and all claims will be able to be substantiated as truth or not. They further comment that our accounting firm has been implicated in the wrongful and slanderous assertions made by the church and James Daly of TruthBeKnown. As you can see and hear in the video, Mr. Daly is manipulating and falsely misrepresenting the accounting firm's work product in the fashion that is injurious to both the accounting firm and the church. Radiant respectfully requests that the accounting firm immediately seek the removal of TBK's video and any public reference to the church's financials. I have to shake my head here. I am really truly embarrassed for Dustin Gaines of my church law firm and the leadership at Radiant Church for such a nefarious communication. Neither I nor TBK have manipulated or falsely misrepresented anything. And it's you and your client's behavior that has been injurious to the church. While Stephen Goodspeed of your law firm showed goodwill by apologizing, repenting, and seeking reconciliation for me with the church, you come along and continue to perpetuate these ungodly and unfounded accusations against me? The last 3 pages of this letter are definitions of legal terms. Now, I want to be clear that they are contacting and communicating to the general counsel of a national billion-dollar accounting firm. Do you think Dustin Gaines needs to educate them on legal terms? No. So let me paint you a picture. This would be like an unruly 12-year-old kid trying to tell his school principal in the principal's office as to why he's right and the principal's wrong. This is nothing more than showboating to his client, Radiant Church. And I can tell you it has absolutely no other bearing in the situation. You then state that your client is prepared to hire a computer forensic expert. Well, I will tell you that we are well beyond being prepared, and we are actually fully committed to employing forensic experts, not only to perform forensic review of all text and other written communications between Radiant representatives, but also forensic review of all financial documentation upon our receipt of this information. We are fully committed to the relentless pursuit of truth in this entire situation. Are you committed to the truth? If there is one thing I've learned in my 54 years, and it's my strong opinion, that when someone projects radical assertions against me, many times it comes to light that they themselves were simply projecting their own behavior onto others. I cannot tell you how many times this has occurred. I bring this up specifically in reference to your accusation of altering documents from our accounting firm. I make no accusations, but we now have our suspicions reinforced. And you need to inform your client that all, and we mean all financial documentation and communications, will be made available through discovery right down to the last credit card and text. Dustin's comments due to pending litigation on behalf of his client. Dustin, we have to tell you that we are very tired of you talking about your pending litigation. If you truly believe in your client's claims and facts, stop saber-rattling through others by telling us you're going to sue us, posturing yourself from the comfort of your office, and just file your lawsuit. As a matter of fact, we're going to give you a deadline. You file your lawsuit before November 14th. That's your deadline. If you don't file your lawsuit by close of business on November 14th, we are going to start the process of considering and pursuing our own available legal remedies. In reference to communications for the preservation of evidence, we are all very well of these requirements, but would encourage you to educate your clients, that being Pastor Lee, the Board of Elders, all overseers, Radiant local staff, all network church senior leadership, and all of their employees, including certain church members, that's right, of this requirement, because we will be requesting all of this information from all of them. And once the toothpaste is out of the tube, it won't be able to be put back in. You should take the time as their legal counsel to educate all of those of whom you represent or will be representing as being eager to run to the courtroom and take the stand to defend the nefarious behavior and actions of your client. They deserve to be made aware that we are looking forward to hearing their testimony, and most importantly, we are looking forward to cross-examining them with our own questions, and that they are not going to have the luxury of all hiding in the back room and talking together. They're going to be independently sitting in the room with opposing counsel and a court reporter answering questions under oath. Frankly, it is a sad state that is coming to this. If we end up in court, it will be entirely due to your client's failed leadership. We at TBK have pursued every available alternative, following the Matthew 18 model, and have diligently pursued these avenues for over 4 years now. It is Radiant that has first hired an attorney. It is Radiant that has repeatedly threatened litigation. It is unfortunate, but this may end up in court because Radiant leadership's defiance and bad actions. I want to close out this discussion by reminding everyone that the accounting firm of whom we employed is a nationally recognized operation, one of the best, and is extremely respected in the accounting field. The auditing professional who performed the review and authored the letter of review is very experienced as well, especially with church financials, and is well respected for her work. But let's be clear, the accounting firm's analysis came to no conclusions, made no accusations, and did not take sides. It simply provided a non-biased review based upon the professional accounting principles. Radiant's financials not only failed to answer questions, as stated earlier, but actually created more questions, right? Serious questions. More questions than answers. Questions that are troubling until we have the answers. And whose fault is this? Well, it's the fault of Radiant Church's accounting staff and their department and their leadership, who, for lack of a better explanation, appeared to lack the experience and adequate skills to provide accurate accounting and financial reporting. Accounting in itself is actually quite simple. It's debits and credits. And it seems to be the only explanation for the vast discrepancies with Radiant's financials, unless there's something more nefarious going on. The pretty year-end financial reports that seem like they've been created by the church's marketing department and presented to the church over the years were found to have considerable discrepancies when compared to the audited financials conducted by their accountant, Kapp and Krause. Audited financials that, to our knowledge, had never been provided to the congregation until our relentless pursuit of them at TBK. It was only then, once we had the basic financials, that we were equipped to compare and see these vast discrepancies. Given these facts, Kendra Zondervan, the chief financial officer, Pastor Lee's sister-in-law, along with all other Radiant staff, need to answer these important financial questions related to these vast discrepancies. Now we're going to conclude chapter 2 and want you to soon join us for chapter 3, entitled Smoke and Mirrors, Church Strategy. Thank you all very much. Mario! Hey, has anybody seen Mario? It's time to shoot episode 5, The Cost of War, Mario. Mario! Where you at, buddy? Hey, Mario! Oh my gosh, I didn't know you were on a Zoom call with your mother. I'm so sorry, buddy. Hello, everyone. Many of you have been asking us, how can we assist? What can we do? And I want to remind all of you about our open letter. If you go to truthbeknown.org, click on open letter, you can sign that letter in support of nothing more than the request of financial transparency and the bylaws. It's not confrontational. Your name is not going to be shown to the public on the website. But this is a way for you to kindly share your concern to the church leadership and Pastor Lee that you support transparency. Now, whether you sign the letter or not, you have to understand you're making a vote. You're making a decision. And we encourage you to stand for transparency with God's purse. We'll be in touch soon. Thank you for your support.